He's hitting me. It hurts. My name is Chuck Hoppenrath. I am currently the partner with ACCCSCIENT Digital's Modern Applications and Cloud practice. My background, though, were you to push me into a corner and say, Chuck, what are you? I'm an enterprise architect. And I come at enterprise architecture from a really interesting background, I think anyway. A lot of people who are enterprise architects today are truly software developers because as cloud has come to the forefront of infrastructure and the ways people operate, software development is where people think about it. I'm not. I'm a mechanic. I come at it from a network architecture perspective and from a really old line of early adopters when VMware first came to the market. And I spent a lot of time building the systems that developers worked on top of, but very quickly realized that an infrastructure-focused view did not align with where the market is really going toward. I needed to be able to have a conversation with the developers because at the end of the day, the workload is king, even though that kills me. It's not what I came up with, but I understand that it's in service of something that's greater than itself. So I looked at enterprise architecture as a way to be able to broach that and make sure that the efforts that we, both infrastructure and the software developer teams, are doing it in service of the business. EA really functions at that pivot point. It translates business requirements into the technical. So what do? I tell businesses things that they should already know, but I do it in such a way that they feel good about it. So when COVID first hit, I spent a lot of time learning about bourbon. And yeah, your initial thing is Chuck really wanted an excuse to be able to drink. But I was more interested in the business of it, right? What a dumb business it truly is. Because if you think about this, if I wanted to start Chuck's Bourbon Company today, I would start distilling product, put it in barrels, but I have to wait 2, 4, 6, 8 years for that product to come out and actually be tasted. And I have no idea whether it's going to taste good, right? So to start cash flow, I'll grab bourbon somebody else makes and try to make it and blend it in such a way that it's how I think it's going to taste when it comes out of the barrel. What a huge risk that is. And as you start thinking about that business requirement where early on I'm depending on somebody else to define what my product is, I'm going to build it on top of a service, distilling as a service for somebody else, for me to be able to make a product and go, what does that sound like? That sounds an awful like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure or Google Compute. I need somebody else's infrastructure to build a service I'm going to deliver to people on top of. And as soon as that thought hit me one night while I was having a few bourbons and reading through white papers and stuff like that, I'm like, oh my God, what a great way to talk about IT in the context of something that I was enjoying learning about. And it went from there. And the more you think about this analogy, the more it really played, because there's a lot of elements of the bourbon industry, how those requirements change as the companies age, the same problems that we run into with IT consulting as well. You know, one company who's small and does custom insurance for a business is very, very different than a school district. They have to rely on the same type of technologies, but their usage pattern, the amount of money they can invest in it are dramatically different. Yet their needs, at the end of the day, they need to be available and secure and cost effective for what their investment pattern is. Everybody has the same needs. Everybody wants a bourbon that tastes good, but their flavors are different. Our job is to be able to build that store and make sure that their shopping experience is good. When you come into an organization and start thinking about the problem sets that they're trying to be able to solve, the crux of the issue really is understanding what the business needs IT to be able to deliver. It's really, really difficult or really, really telling to go into an IT organization and say, what does this computer do for the business? What business service does it contribute to? What would be the impact if that machine went away? Would you be able to tell me all the people inside your organization who would care if this particular virtual machine went poof or it died. And depending on the quality of that answer, immediately lets you start having conversations with the organization and say, does IT have a true understanding about the services that they're providing to the business? What value are they getting out of it? And if the business comes to them and says, we are thinking about doing X, we're trying to break into a new market, or marketing is really struggling to be able to get things out at a faster pace, do they know how they might be able to respond to that? All of the things IT builds, delivers, and makes available to the organization needs to be in service of something. And IT should have a clean line of visibility into what that is. Likewise, the business needs to have an understanding of what the services IT have available to it. The most wasteful thing you can see is if the business goes off to cloud provider X, software as a service that provides something that they got quick because they had a credit card for them, and IT has a service that does something fundamentally the same. That's incredibly wasteful. And as you might imagine, it's going to make IT feel like we've spent all this time and effort and money making this available, and yet this group who we never talked to went off and did it. Why am I doing this? It's a way to be able to bring everybody to the table and make sure that they're aligned directionally in the same place, and have them start opening and talking very, very openly with one another. The process of having that conversation where that alignment between business and technology starts to happen is collaborative. It's not a one meeting. It's not we're going to have a 3-hour bitch session, for lack of a better term. It really is having an understanding from a lot of different stakeholders, because everybody has not only an opinion, but needs that need to be captured and understood and documented, in many cases for the very first time for an organization. And when we talk stakeholders, I'm talking to everybody: IT executives, business executives, people who are responsible and own the services and applications that a business relies on, the users of those applications, IT. So we talked about the IT executives. I want to know and have conversations with the network guys. I want to talk with security. I want to talk with the system administrators. And honestly, the most important conversation that I have for any client that I talk to, I want to talk to the help desk. Because if anybody can tell me where the genuine problems inside an organization are the guys who are picking up the phone when something is going wrong. Having an understanding about where all of them are coming together, what their requirements are, what their opinion of the quality of service IT provides, is the first step. Because then you start saying, all right, so this is where we are today. Where do you want to go tomorrow? What is it that you want IT and the applications that IT provides to be able to do for you? What parts work? Because I don't want to throw out technology or processes that are important and work for the business just for the sake of something new coming in. You know, one of the principles that the modern applications and cloud practice operates on top of is the principle of reuse. There's nothing worse than a consultant who comes in and says, and we're going to get rid of everything, and everything's going to be new, and the look of panic and blood drain that you see in IT and the business owners like, wait a minute, that's not what we said. We want to be very purposeful about any recommendations for technology, be they across a hybrid cloud infrastructure or for applications that run on top of it. It really should be among the last things. Technology is usually the easier of the things that we need to be able to do. It's identifying those requirements that the technology needs to be deployed in service of. That's the hard part. And matter of fact, one of the things that we do, as we've discussed before, I'm an enterprise architect. We tend to align our approach towards traditional EA. I don't start talking technology until towards the end of my engagement, because I want to make sure everybody is heard and I have repeated back to them what I've heard. So yep, this guy gets it. We know what we're talking about. Everything and every recommendation we make, everybody's had input into it, so everybody has ownership of it. The biggest risk of building out this business alignment between business and technology across all stakeholders truly is not having the conversation at all. The most risky part of any IT project is IT assuming they know what the business needs. That's a recipe for disaster. But the corollary for that is equally disastrous. The business thinking that because they have budgetary authority and they know what their small application needs are, they can go off and they can do the job just as well. Buying into a software as a service type of a platform that provides HR services without thinking through what the impact is for connectivity into existing legacy systems that IT is busy supporting and delivering back out to the service can lead to disaster. Because if one line of business signs a contract that the company is stuck with for years, but it won't integrate, or all of a sudden you've committed the IT to an integration project that they haven't budgeted for and haven't planned for, and it's going to take months, what's the impact to the bottom line? What's the impact to the users where they have two systems that all of a sudden they're responsible for keeping data in touch with because a decision was made in a vacuum? The idea for any kind of consistent approach across infrastructure and applications is making sure that those lines of communication are open and trying to get as much politics and personal agendas out of it while you can. The idea is to clear the decks and make sure everybody has line of sight into why we're making those decisions. Organizations that are able to successfully walk through the journey of digital transformation have a couple of characteristics in common. I think the most important of those is the willingness to be open to not only new technology and new processes, but having an understanding that the organization itself needs to change. It's not like IT was in the old days where you had a database group and you had a network group and you had a guy who was responsible for patching the Windows servers in the corner. And then there was another group that did software development on top of them. And as they walked across and met in the hallway, it was almost like a scene out of West Side Story, where the Jets and the Sharks were, whistling at each other and getting into a dance battle. And that was the environment I grew up in, right? It was antagonistic between infrastructure and software development. And the thing that cloud has done for all of IT has really enabled and empowered IT to be able to operate significantly more efficiently. And as you think about what that power is and how those capabilities have started in Amazon and Azure and have pushed into on-premises infrastructure, cloud at the end of the day is not a thing. It's an operating model. It's a way of approaching empowerment and entitlement and automation across all of the infrastructure. And that way we are thinking about cloud in a hybrid way, because there are workloads that should stay on premises from a security, from a performance perspective, all of those things. And there are workloads that are born and dying to live inside Amazon Web Services or Azure just because of how that they function. What I should be able to do is align my organization in such a way that I can take advantage of all of those capabilities. And I have built out a security regimen and a way of entitling people to be able to do their work without it being an old traditional waterfall type of a model. The worst thing you can do is come to me and say, I want to start moving all my workloads out to Amazon Web Services, but I'm going to treat it the exact same way that I treated an old traditional infrastructure. Do you know what you've done? You've taken a match to a pile of money and you have created Amazon Web Services the most expensive co-location facility you've ever built in your entire life. The idea is to organize organizational optimization. Cloud operations optimization is what we call this. It's a way of looking at infrastructure and software development and security and budget and how you interact with these teams at a enterprise standard and deliver this service out to the organization that is easy and quick and forecastable to the organization. It's a mode of operations that the business needs to understand that how they interact with IT needs to fundamentally change. But It empowers the business to bring new capabilities online quicker and faster, and typically speaking, less expensively. I think one of the biggest opportunities that businesses can take advantage of when they start thinking about emerging technologies and ways to optimize their operations are not being afraid of attacking legacy applications and technical debt. It has been forever that the common pattern of infrastructure refresh is 5 or 7 years after we've bought the last set of heavy iron, we're going to replace it, but we're going to continue operating as we go along. How many clients do we deal with on a regular basis who have an AS400 sitting in the corner that is still delivering mission critical applications, but I can't do a lot with it in terms of disaster recovery unless I am willing to pay an exorbitant amount of money to create a low latency, high bandwidth connectivity to it somewhere relatively close to my geographic area, where the rest of my infrastructure, because I have been able to successfully virtualize it or take it out to the cloud, I can recover that in 15 or 20 minutes. And I have this albatross sitting in the corner that represents significant technical debt. Nobody wants to pay for the modernization of that. So what have we done with this? We've created a unapproachable black hole in terms of what IT is responsible for today. We should start looking at ways to be able to take that application, rewrite it, and think about ways to be able to enable it inside of a modern cloud context. It doesn't need to be done all at once, but we should start building out long-term plans for application modernization to take advantage of all the new capabilities that are coming online, so the services that IT delivers to the business continue to be quicker and more agile and recoverable. Because at the end of the day, it's availability and adaptability that the business wants from the services that IT is providing. And if we're afraid of attacking the hard problems, we're never going to be able to deliver that. And at the end of the day, business is going to find a way to be able to do that with or without IT. So let's not be afraid of asking the hard questions and start building out a plan to eventually retire those legacy applications. ACCIENT Digital is positioned really uniquely, I think, to help our clients look at their application landscape and think about and plan for application modernization. We're going to start with the principle of reuse. There is no need to reset the deck across the board any more than there is necessarily a requirement for us to just uplift them into the cloud. Moving them from an on-premises infrastructure up to a public cloud does nothing. All it does is move the computer that they're running on top of, right? What we should be looking at is, does the application perform to the level that you need? Can I easily change how it operates? Can I add new capabilities easily and quickly at a pace that the business needs for it to be able to operate on top of? Are there risks in the software development that the platform? Do I have access to the source code? Is it developed in a platform that is aging or is approaching, deprecation? Do I have enough staff to be able to support it? Is it a COTS product that's out of business and I'm kind of stuck with it in the corner? Or am I paying an exorbitant amount of money to be able to keep it current just because I haven't been able to move the dependency on my business processes off of it? We need to be able to quantify those risks and have a conversation with the business that you have accepted these risks. This is what the genuine cost of running these legacy applications are. Are you comfortable with that at a business decision? If the answer to that is yes, fine. Our job is risk mitigation. How can we control the risk that you've accepted? But if the answer to that question is no, we can start bringing to bear a wide portfolio of capabilities. Let's talk about what the requirements are, and then let's start having a conversation about how we can, application by application or application portfolio wide, come up with a plan to modernize. Where are you going to be in 5 years? Do you plan on having a data center anymore? If not, what's the runway for that? And can we come up with an application modernization plan that works in conjunction with that cloud migration? So as we move applications from a legacy platform to take advantage of the capabilities that a modern cloud has, that should be done in conjunction and planned together. It's not just about the workload. It's about what the business needs for it to be done and how infrastructure and application support need to work together to accomplish those goals. ACCIENT Digital really is positioned in a capability perspective that I think speaks to the importance of looking at infrastructure and application modernization from a cohesive perspective. We talked about the importance of organizational change management, and we have capabilities in enterprise service management that can speak toward the importance of not only how technology is delivered, but how it's supported and how I'm managing the portfolio of that technology inside. It's really, really easy to say, these are my technology, this is my service desk. I'm not going to worry about it until the 5 years has gone on. I'm shaking because I've seen the challenges of that type of an approach and the risk that you put IT in without genuinely managing how IT services are delivered back out to the organization. It's a great way to kill your reputation and lose the trust of the business if you're not actively managing IT support as a discipline within the organization. I also think it's really, really critical that we don't discount or don't come to the table with cybersecurity in every single conversation that we're having. The challenge of hybrid cloud is the expansion of the attack footprint that we're enabling for the organization, right? One of the reasons, or one of the excuses that we get from a lot of clients because they haven't gone onto the cloud is because they're afraid of the security of what cloud is. It typically or can require a different set of tools, or it can require a different implementation of the same tool set for security to have a level of comfort for hybrid cloud operations. Because yeah, sure, we have elements that are running on premises and we have elements that are running inside the cloud. That seems like we are expanding that attack surface. What we're really doing though is we're enabling security to have access to a new generation of technology in the cloud and combining it together with the data and the traditional security that on-premises operations offers. And we're letting security see that operation in totality. But it needs to be designed and planned for in conjunction with any major infrastructure overhaul or uplift. What you will see when ACCIENT Digital engages is it's not just going to be a conversation with a cloud architect or a software developer. You're going to have all the disciplines in a room and having a conversation together, because much like the optimal operational mode for the modern enterprise is to have security and ITSM and enterprise architect and infrastructure and cloud together in a room, we approach consulting in the exact same way. IT can't operate in a vacuum. It's not just infrastructure. It's not a solid operation. And our consulting engagement model follows that, because it is the breadth of experience that our team has coming together to look at your environment and engaging with our counterparts on the client side to have that conversation about what it should be like when we talk about what the solution should be. We map the optimal approach to you so you're not left trying to be able to pick up the pieces, because we've knitted it together for you with your team. And as we've designed a solution together, it's a really easy thing to be able to take ownership and then run it. That's the goal.